Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. You're still watching Nedbank Business Watch. This is our final segment. We're taking a look at today's markets with Nozibusiso Dembe from Nedbank. Afternoon, Nozi. Welcome back. It's been a while.
Lulu. It's been a while. Good to be back.
All right. So what are the numbers saying today? Well, let's start off with taking a look at the US dollar. I did see that this week, during the beginning of the week, it was weakening. Is it still weakening?
So yeah, we've observed the US dollar weakening and the rand strengthening since last week after Fed Chairperson Jerome Powell made comments indicating that his expectation for inflation is that it might still rise in the summer, well, their summer, our winter, and if it does remain contained, that is only when the Fed is willing to make interest rate cuts. The way the market interpreted that is to say that there are possible interest rate cuts that are going to happen now in July. What that means is if interest rates are cut in the US, ZAR assets become more attractive for investors, so that then strengthens the ZAR. So currently, the US dollar against the EZL is 771. The pound against the EZL trading at 24.1881. The US dollar weakening wasn't made any better by what some of the comments that Trump had to make last week about the Fed chair, calling him terrible and saying that he has a handful of people in his mind who could be good runners to replace him. Trump has wanted interest rates to be cut for some time, and Jerome Powell has been resisting, saying that the Fed only cuts interest rates if the data suggests so, not anything otherwise. So they have been at loggerheads because of that.
Okay, so let's take a look at South Africa. Are there any tensions in the GNU after President Ramaphosa fired the Minister of Trade in South Africa?
Yeah, so there are tensions right now in the GNU in South Africa. As you're saying, Cyril Ramaphosa fired the Deputy Minister of Trade, Andrew Whitfield, last week, citing that he went on a trip to the US, an unsanctioned, unauthorized trip to the US, whereas national executives are supposed to have those authorized. So he fired the Deputy Minister, and the Deputy Minister is from the DA. So there's a lot of tension right now between the DA and the ANC. But surprisingly, that didn't move markets much, probably because the two events that I just spoke about, being Jerome Powell and Trump, were so significant that the movement of this wasn't seen. So we didn't see a huge move because of that.
All right, so let's just move on to commodities. With what's happening in the US, how are commodities reacting? Oil is rising again. Gold is rising also. What's happening? Tell us more.
Yeah, so like you're saying, the price of oil is inching up, primarily because the expectation from the market is that OPEC will announce that they are increasing their oil production for July, mainly because of an increase in demand from China, Saudi, and Russia. So that is the expectation from the market. And before that, the price of oil was falling because of the Israel-Iran war. The conflicts around that, the ceasefire, we saw the price of oil decrease, but now it's starting to inch back up. Currently, oil is trading at $71.55 per barrel, and gold is trading at $3,344.89 per ounce. On the side of gold, gold was a safe haven for a lot of investors during the peak of the Iran-Israel war, and we saw it retreat after the ceasefire was agreed last week. Okay. But now we're starting to see it inch up a bit, primarily because the US dollar is weakening. So we're seeing the price of gold inch up, as you can see.
Okay, so moving on to equities, how is the S&P 500 performing today?
The S&P 500 closed at a slight negative yesterday, primarily dragged down by tech stocks. Those were really hard hit, but, well, not really hard hit because it's quite marginal, but they're the ones dragging the index down. On the FTSE side, we are seeing slight positive returns on that, mainly because of optimism around the US trade negotiations that are currently going on. We know that it's a couple of days until the 9th of July, and that is the deadline for trade negotiations to be done with the US. So there's optimism around what those negotiations are looking like for Europe, and we're seeing that in the numbers of the FTSE. Same with the JSE All Share Index. We're also seeing slight positive gains on that, also because there's optimism around that. I think right now it's crunch time for that tariff conversation.
Okay. So lastly, Inozi, before I let you go, what is it that we need to watch out for this week?
This week, what we're watching out for, which will drive markets, is the non-farm payroll, which is happening on Friday, which is the US jobs data. That normally drives market quite quickly and quite significantly. And then we also need to look out now for some of the conversations that are happening in this last period before the 9th of July. We're expecting to see what the outcomes of South Africa and US's conversations will be regarding trade, because that'll give us a direction going forward.
All right, thank you so much for that analysis. Well, there you have it, and that is how markets are reacting today, this Wednesday afternoon. Nosy Boo's just given us her analysis of today's markets. We've come to the end of our program, but let's go for an ad break, and we come and wrap up the show with Sfiso.
Digital helps you make cross-border payments. Human gives you global specialists. Digital allows you to apply for a loan anytime, anywhere. Human connects you to credit experts. Digital puts you in control of your money, while Human connects you to wealth advisors.